the topic?
Do a toast to whatever you want.
Um,
There are no rules.
so I want to do a toast to the economic point of inelasticity, which I will explain.
Okay, there we go.
Wow. Whoa. Cheers to that.
This one off with a snazzy bang.
That sounded really smart. So I think we'll let you dive into that there, Bruce.
So I got your invitation, and I just didn't review it until today. And I literally wrote down just stream of conscience, like what is, what is,
More than I do. I only have like 6.
I only have 4. So what's going on right now within the industry, and what are the hot topics that we want to hear from? So number 1, I would love you all to feature Mike Dix.
Yep.
on
Yes.
this. With what he's writing right now and where he's going, I think it's going to be incredible.
Where was the most? I saw an article he wrote recently.
Vin. He's got a 6-part series going on Vin.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. I thought that was fascinating. It was very well done.
It is well done, and I think it's going to even get, knowing him, it's even going to get more edgy and challenging to the profession. And I think Mike would be a great one to feature.
I agree. Yeah, he has great information. Now that he's no longer an ABMA, or he can be a little edgy.
Yeah, and he is. I think that's part of it.
Yeah, fantastic.
So I'll just get my 4 out of the way real quick.
Mia, all you have to do is just start stirring up the controversy. Just stir it up.
That's right.
Stir the pot.
Yeah,
Drew Nagel from Care Credit had a very interesting LinkedIn post. Frankly, it was actually today, about embracing new technologies and how, and it was a Harvard, he referenced a Harvard Business Review article. It was nothing to do about veterinary medicine, but it was about 24/7 customer relationships in the digital age.
Ooh, like that.
I think we should ask Drew to speak on that topic. I don't know what they've got cooking, but if you look at the content he's been posting over the past 5-6 months, it's all down this angle. So they're going somewhere with it. Yeah.
I might have some insight into what they're working on.
Look at Brenda. Brenda, her day job.
Your day job, yes.
Yeah, no, that would be an interesting one.
Yes.
I read a really cool Harvard Business, not to jump in, but on the Harvard Business Review, there was a really great article in my feed this morning on workplace toxicity and things you can do to help adjust that. And I thought it was very practical, some step-by-step type of things. Yeah, so the toxicity is not a new issue, obviously, but it's one that's
an ongoing one, though. Yeah.
It is an ongoing one, but it's one on my list that after being at Chicago Vet, I picked up someone that I thought might be good for that. So
nice.
How was Chicago Vet?
So okay, they have a long way to go, but I actually met with Steven afterwards, and so they acquired this. They had no impact on the overall format, etc., and they moved it from, I guess, where was it last year, Bruce? Because you were there last year.
The Sheridan, I think, downtown, right on the. Yeah, they moved it to the thing here, right?
The pier, Navy Pier.
Which unfortunately is under construction. They're at the very end, and the day was beautiful, and it was the most spectacular thing. And I did this week with the Bridge Club out there with Kimberly Pope Robinson. Beautiful, absolutely spectacular. Nice. I think I understand their model. They have a sound issue because they didn't set it up so you were on the floor and all you heard was all the buzz and the noise. And Eric Garcia presented. I went to his session. I'd never heard him present before. Yeah. So it was really, I actually will say I will go back next year because I want to see what they improve.
Were you there last year?
No.
I'm curious about the sound because I know that's their model of having, was it the talks were in the center of all the exhibitors?
So what they said was whoever planned it before them had paper thin curtains, and so there was not enough of a sound barrier. Now the one that I went to with Eric Garcia, it was about 10 minutes where I was very aware that I was in this massive exhibit hall, and then after it went away because then I got involved with what the speaker was saying, but it took me 10 minutes. And they did
Interesting.
not have enough seating for the number of participants. They had registered, I think he told me, what did I tell you, Brenda? They had registered 1,500 and they think 1,200 showed up.
Yeah, they
Have a good
had-
night.
So that's not a crappy attendance for a show that, you know, has only had like 400 or 500 in the past or something.
That's
Well,
not,
and did you hear they just launched that they're going to also do a New York Austin?
Yeah.
That's cool.
So
yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
Austin's going to be huge because it's in April, and Brenda and I are curious what that means for VIS.
Right.
But Austin, I'll go.
Yeah, exactly. Austin for sure.
Yeah, this is the same group that's doing New York Vet, right?
Yeah.
Well, now they now have 8 or 9. So they're doing Singapore, London.
Or international and 5 US.
Yeah. So they're
And
really,
is
Go ahead.
Beth and Brief Media just involved in the ones in the U.S.? Are they connected into the internet? All of them?
just Chicago and just Wild West. They don't have New York and they don't have Austin yet.
Yeah, they do. They have New York.
Yeah, she has New York. Beth Green has New York.
Definitely New York, but I just didn't know about the others or the Austin.
Part of it, not all of it, because the way Stephen was talking, he wasn't given a lot. And when I've talked with oh crap, what's her name?
While you're thinking
What's
about
her right hand person?
Which one, Naomi or Indu?
Longer hair.
Oh, yeah.
Whatever person.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
when they launched, Brief Media did all of the content.
Yes.
Closer Still did all the exhibition part. That's the way their model was mapped out. So did they change that, I wonder?
Well, it was interesting because they're like, we're still trying to figure out New York. And I'm thinking, I just talked with them and I'm embarrassed I don't remember her name. But just talked with them and they didn't have their hands wrapped around what was happening. So I don't think they fully control. I don't think it's theirs.
Got it.
So it'll be interesting. Anyway, okay. So number 3 there, Bruce.
Number 3 is this whole idea of, as the cost of care increases and quality of care increases, and there really aren't broadly available financing solutions, we're going to reach this point where people won't take care of their pets or won't bring their pets to a veterinarian, or they'll seek alternate care models like VIP or shot vets and such. I think Bob Lester would be a great person to talk on this. I've communicated with him on an article I'm writing, and he's got it, man. He's like in the center of that and passionate about it. The whole pet financing thing, like having a pet financing coordinator within a veterinary practice that looks for financing solutions. I think Bob would be great for that.
Well, that's good. I love how you're also giving us potential hosts. That's even better.
This is great. This bounces off the whole access to care conversation that we started with Dave.
Yeah.
Right.
Another twist on that part of it.
Yeah. And then my last one, I think you've already covered probably, but it's just this whole idea of the shortage of veterinarians and how do we address it. And not from, and I don't know who to speak, who would do this talk, because Stacy could do it and she'd do great, but Stacy's talk would be about what do we have to pay, veterinarians to get them to switch, but it's almost about the optimization of the healthcare team.
Yes.
Address the veterinary shortage. I get so tired of these. I go to these Mark Offerman events, and I try to do a fair bit of the talks in addition to our salespeople, so I stay in touch. And these veterinarians shake their head at me when I say that their veterinary nurses should be doing everything up to the legal limit in their state. They should be doing all injections that are allowed. They should be doing all suture rechecks. They should be doing this. And I get these veterinarians that are like, no. And I'm like, wait, why are you not thinking about this from a business perspective,
Struggle for control, and it's a little bit of a that's my job, not your job kind of thing, right? So it's like the training they've been centered around.
Yeah.
What's interesting is, so when I went to, so I was talking to Andrea Drover, and I told her that the Veterinary Innovation Council has indicated that veterinary technicians are their #1 priority to evaluate why they're leaving the profession. Yeah. And they said they want to look at how they could be overutilized. Andrea said to me, on that Veterinary Innovation Council, how many of them are technicians? And I literally about stopped in my feet and was like, I think 0.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
is that right, Brenda? Or is there one on there that
Julie is on that, or somebody from that group, but
Julie's not, because
I know,
Julie knew
I'm
nothing
looking
about
at
it.
the faces. I'm trying to like scroll through the faces, you know, from the.
So I
There
was gonna,
wasn't. At one point there was. I know when they started out there was one, but I'm going through the faces too, and I don't think there is right now.
Having one is not enough. It reminds me of years ago, and I probably should say this because it's being recorded, when the ABMA was proud because they added a woman to the board of the directors, and I'm like, really?
Right.
One
Right.
woman? One
Right.
woman out of all
Yeah.
those?
so
Yeah.
I think to your point, because I really want to dive into the Veterinary Innovation Council and what their drive's doing. So to get to your point, Bruce, the other thing that I want to do is Stacy Burdick is with Compassion First Pet Hospitals, and she's been piloting a program, and she did it purely because she was going to lose a tech, where she went to the state and said, how far can I push those limits of her experience where she's at? And so she's been piloting a program. She's the medical director at Red Bank, and she's been piloting a program to see how far she can push it. And she's been using that as a case study to see if they can put it through the rest of their hospitals. So I'd love to be able to bring Stacy on. She's a great millennial. She's a brand new mom too, and a medical director, talk about how she actually did it because she was going to lose her favorite tech.
Yeah.
Then the other piece that we're doing is I'm excited to announce that Ted and AAVMC and Andy are going to come forth and talk about what are the colleges doing in order to recruit veterinarians. And they actually have a very unique approach to it because they don't feel it's their job to recruit. They're there to educate, but he goes, it's funny how the industry is now looking at us because Mark Cushing is one of them who says, what are the colleges doing? With he's looking at the debt, like you look at the debt, so therefore it's drawing people away. So I think to your point, Bruce, there's many ways to look at that topic and hit it that we haven't been talking about it. I think techs have always been pushed aside, or shall I say nurses, as a part of the Veterinary Nurse Initiative, all pushed to the side, and now they're the ones that are now going to become the primary focus of the profession.
And I think, and this is my N of one, and I'm not a veterinarian, I'm not a veterinary nurse, but everybody watched probably on Facebook my injury I had down in New Orleans, right?
Yeah.
And I go into the Medi-Merge, and I get a nurse practitioner, which is what I expected to get, right? And so I'm like, oh, well, let me ask her a bunch of questions about, how
I'm
she
hurt
does.
and I'm bleeding all over the place, but hold on, I have some questions.
Yeah, well, the Novocaine, it wasn't Novocaine, whatever they injected you was really, that was the most painful part, then it was fine. But, she's like, I can do everything a doctor can do except for, I don't know what, like maybe prescribe or die, I don't know. There was a limit. And she told me she knew what her limit was. And I was really happy that I was cared for by her. So I don't know why our veterinary nurses aren't, this was a normal sort of injury, right? No bone, no cartilage or whatever. So she stitched it up and I was on my way and she did a good job. I think we need to get that thinking into veterinary medicine. And I know some folks challenge that and be uncomfortable with it. I mean, Mia, what do you think about that?
Well, I absolutely agree, but I think there's a lot of layers to this. And to me, there's still so many practices that aren't, it's kind of like with virtual care, right? There's so many practices that aren't even leveraging the technicians in the basic way. Same thing with virtual care. There's some that don't even realize they're already doing it, right? So it's both ends, right? I don't think we need to just focus on just one end of the spectrum, but it's normal tech utilization that they should have been doing for the last 20 to 30 years. But what I was sitting here thinking about is, a way to tie all this together. And this was one of the two things I wanted to bring up. But, you talked about bringing in Bob Lester and different practice models. And that's the one for me that I've been trying to find the right way to, help the profession understand that there are today existing, so many different practice models that should be considered, and then the ones that are to coming, and not just with virtual care, although that's certainly a piece of it. But I think it'd be interesting to have a series, or maybe it's, twice a month, year round, where people are coming on that just go about practice in a different way, and they share their story and people ask them questions, because that's what it's like, bringing case studies to life, right? And one way is not going to fit every community or every veterinarian, but the more we expose people to the different options, the more they're going to start to get more creative for, well, gosh, well, I could do something similar in my practice, or they could build off that idea to what would work in their practice. So I think there's something there that could be really more than a one and done. And it ties in the technician utilization, right? Because with each model, you're leveraging your technician or your nurse differently too. So I just think there's a lot in that category that we could really tap into.
There is, and what came to mind while you were speaking was Audrey from Zippy Vet. That's a dynamo.
It is.
Yes.
How-
Good idea. Yes.
VIP pet care. That is
Yes. Yep.
that model was hated 15 years ago, right?
Right.
We should
Right.
get
And
Susan Schultes, the president of that group, to come in.
And have Vincent Bradley talk about his new model too. Right?
yes.
Yeah.
So that's,
Yes. And the thing is, and that's, different organizations have talked about doing panels, but it would be a one and done, maybe 3 or 4 different panels. But what if it's literally on each call, you maybe could have 1 or 2, but you could also just highlight one. They tell what their model is, and then you just open it up for the Q&A.
Yeah.
Right.
I
Right.
think you confuse it too much. I think sometimes one of the things I'm noticing is I'm, a part of Vet Partners and starting to go to some more of these. We try to cram too much in. And one of the things that Brenda is absolutely brilliant, don't mean to brag on you for a minute while you're in the room, but she's always like 3 points. Get to your 3 points and walk.
Yes.
Like, don't,
Absolutely.
what is it that you're trying to
Absolutely.
cover? And I think that is so valid. And I like the idea of like, if Audrey did come on and talk about Zippy Vet, then people could be like, okay, so really, so as they're trying to
Right.
understand what's going on, I love that notion. I think that's brilliant. I think we can absolutely do that. So if you think of other models, shoot them our way, because I think Brenda and I can make that happen. I think that would be good.
Well, I think we should.
ownership too. I think, let's have people come on, because there's so much information about there still about how women don't want to be practice owners. And then there are other women, like Karen Bradley and some of those people, like, that's absolutely not true. And we
Exactly.
have right now to think outside the box and be a little bit more creative. So let's encourage that, that practice
Yes.
doesn't have to be the way it has been for the past 30 years or all.
Well, I'll tell you though, it was a little eye-opening for me. I was at Chicago Vet and I can't remember which session I was in, and they asked, who wants to own a practice here? And one hand of like 120 people went up.
Right.
And like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Right.
It's real.
I think that's okay, though. I think that's okay. Not everybody has to own a practice. I think if you
No,
look
but I
at
think it's a
your care
demonstration.
models, you're going to need a lot of veterinarians.
Yeah, but I think it's a demonstration of how the world is changing, because not everyone wants to own anymore. And I think
Mhm.
that's why people are like, why is consolidation happening? Well, that's why.
Well, it's because, yeah.
Well, it's one piece of it for sure.
Yeah.
People don't
Yeah.
want to be part of that.
Yep.
So-
I ran across, I'm going to bring this up, even though this is, obviously I'm a co-founder of this, but one of the things that, Bruce, I thought you might find interesting is I ran into a guy who was talking about credit card financing. So I went and walked the trade show booth and everything, and he was like, oh, credit card financing, and here, a credit card payer. But he piqued my interest because he was talking about fraud the data breaches have yet to hit veterinary medicine. And we're on the cusp pretty soon. We're going to be the headline for
Right.
This is where the data breaches happen. And I thought that topic alone
That'd be great. Yes.
scares the crap out of me. But I'm also like, that needs to be talked about, of how to protect ourselves.
Yeah. Cybersecurity.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Who could be a good person for that?
There are a couple, I can't think of names, but there are businesses that
Yeah, we could find them.
Joe Axney.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That says hello. That partners and a all access member.
Nice. Perfect.
Yeah.
So we probably would get nobody to do it, but Chris Dollar from Covetrus or one of his team would be really
Oh,
good.
yeah.
Because they're sitting on the largest database in veterinary medicine, hands down. Like they're
Yeah, that's
sitting-
interesting.
but that's going to be tough, right? To get
Right.
comfortable with the audience and the sort of ad hoc nature of what
You
we're
know
doing.
what the hook could be though, Bruce, is that, they're under so much pressure for their not only their data integrity, but their data privacy, and they're, keep talking about how their model is the way to go. I mean, I think the hook could be, well, this is one audience of, thought leaders and people that are really out there trying to be connected, and that they have so many connectors that it might be the hook where they could come and tell their story to a group that's going to help them spread the positive word on what they have to say. They might be interested in that.
I agree, and that is the angle.
Doctors, so they'll be the ones.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and so I've been at the those ABMA EARC meetings, and I was able to, during my stint of consulting for them, I was able to get them to attend that meeting and see the opportunity there. So yeah, I think they would speak on that. If they wouldn't talk on it, I know Link Wellborn probably would have some stuff to say.
Link, too. That would be good.
Yeah.
But I love.
Saying the EARC, someone that I can't remember if Brenda and Catherine, we've already talked about him or not, and I think Bruce, you've met him, but he is with the ABMA, but he's not. I swear he's very cutting edge, and that's Matt Saloy. Have you guys met Matt, or have I had a conversation?
Introduce us to Matt.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay, good.
Right here. On
Awesome. Yeah, he's a goodie. He came previously with Elanco with you at UF. Before that, he's worked overseas at UK, and he is all.
Not the same guy. The other Matt. Didn't you introduce us to a Matt? Wasn't your guy a Matt?
Oh yeah. Who was that?
Where?
When I went to the ABMA.
Oh, when you
John Eckroth. Wasn't that John Eckroth? That was the communication guy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, so Matt is the chief economist who actually took over after Mike left. Mike Dix
the
left.
name sounded familiar.
Yes, but he's good. You guys would like him a lot. Even if it's a conversation just to get to know him and see what the angle could be. But when I think of, our profession, I think of people that are part of the solution and the people that aren't, right? And some people just fall in one category or the other. And I always put him in part of the solution.
That's good.
So I don't know. Yeah, okay, good.
We like people who are solutions.
Yes.
I think he would be a great speaker. He's a good guy. Yeah, absolutely. I think that would be great. And I would almost with him ask him what topic he wanted to speak on.
Yeah.
Because
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
That's a good idea. So I have another topic unrelated to any of this, which is either a really good idea or a really bad idea. And it's something that I personally have toyed with since probably my days at NABC. And that is, We Lead was the NABC Women's Leadership Movement. And then, of course, everybody knows Wavaldi, and they're awesome. And there's all these different. And what if the topic was, should it be women's leadership or just leadership?
I agree. I'm kind of over the whole just women thing, because if you're a
I am too. But here's the thing, and this is why it could be a fun Bridge Club event, is when I get to talking. Well, no, but when I get to talking to people and they really respect them and they have good arguments, then I'm like, oh, well, that makes sense too. Like Bridget Hausberg, she's very well spoken. I would bring her on why the W should stay in Wavaldi, and then maybe we could find a couple of people that are like us that are maybe over it and have a really interesting conversation.
It's a women's focus, right? Don't close the doors to others,
right,
who want to step forward and take advantage of it, right? So.
Right. Exactly.
I think it is hard for the men in the profession right now because it's been beaten down. And Brenda and I just had a recent conversation about this, of saying we need to get to just leadership. And I have to be honest with you. So in midst of all my car fiascos today, there was a gentleman, and I was listening as I was driving and hoping that no police officer was going to pull me over because the paint tape holding my my side mirror together. And so I actually took a photo of the guy on my XM radio because I'm like, I want to find him. And so his name is Michael Chi, and the topic of his comedy sketch. So there's a new channel called Netflix Comedy. What?
Saturday Night Live guy.
Oh yeah, that is him.
Okay,
Yeah.
I didn't know. Okay. So he goes through this whole thing about Black Lives Matter, and he's
and now he's Comedy Central, right? Or what? He's the new late night. He took over for what's his name? Anyway, sorry, I'll quit interrupting.
What's the space for? I'm not Seth Meyers. Seth Meyers.
No, but he does the news section. But anyway, here's what he did. He does this whole thing called Black Lives Matter, and he goes in and he even talks about gay rights. He talks about women's rights. And he talks about the fact that we battle over the phrase, and this is where this comes into play, because he actually, it was, and I find this really relevant, and I actually want to find the thing, and I'll send it to all of us. It was funny to listen to, because he talks about how he goes, we have politicized on the most basic level. He goes, Black Lives Matter. Like, he goes, we're not saying matters more. We're not saying matters less. We're just simply saying they matter. And then he starts to go through the levels of how we have made sure that we've degraded like civil rights versus equal rights. First we went to equal rights. He's like, you figure it's like equal rights. Then we were just be civil about it. You don't have to be equal. let's just do, and he breaks it down in the language that we've used. And it kind of goes to this notion of we try to find a definitive. And so when you talk about, you know, women's leadership, or should it just be leadership? I think it goes across all of our vernacular, like this whole idea of, we've moved to even away from all lives are created equal, which is written in the Constitution. But the notion of, or is that in the Bill of Rights?
That was all men. It was all men, right? That are created equal.
But, well, no, but it's
right.
perspective of, we've actually lessened the terms. And when I literally almost peed my pants when he's like, we're not saying they matter more, we're just saying they matter. They just matter. And he's like, can we question that lives actually matter? Like, and so, so it leads me to this conversation. I think it's worth having, and I love it, because I think it's going to be spicy. I think we're going to get some people in there that'll, and I'm all about equality in the profession, period. There's no, just, that's for me. I love that topic.
Cool.
So I don't want us to lose sight of, I think Mia, you brought it up, these alternate care models, and
we're not going to. I got it firmly on here, buddy. I love it. I really do. I think it's such a great series, because I think people don't know how to run their business. And I think if you're from someone, you're going to learn a piece. And if you're also questioning, because some of these people have been, what's the right word, demonized, right? When you talk about VIP pet care, like they've been demonized, but now they're like, people are like,
Or they sold for $130 million. There must be something there, right?
Exactly.
Even there in my book, that sounds like a good plan to me.
So, and so this ties into another topic that I think is a red thread through all the topics, but yet we should just hone in on, is that, and I use the term Agile Pioneer, but you could use innovator, pick your term, or an entrepreneurial mindset, you know, the E-Myth, the Peters, you know, E-Myth book, all of that. But it's how to help our profession, our colleagues, you know, pick their, whatever their role is, consultant, practice manager, veterinarian, veterinary nurse, and how the heck do we help move the peg for each of these individuals in our profession so they're just a little bit more open to change, whether that change is a new practice model or leadership or virtual care. That to me is at the heart of it, because if we can, one Bridge Club episode at a time, and one, you know, gig Bruce that you support, and all the things that we're doing to touch this profession, get folks to be optimistic even, and open to change and excited about it versus fearing it, that's how we help move this profession forward.
I agree. That's part of the reason we like did the Bridge Club in the first place, right? It's to get the optimistic problem-solving voices together and hopefully let that kind of exponentially grow.
Right. And it doesn't mean not being realistic, right? We talk about the hard stuff, the bad stuff, the ugly stuff, the challenges, but in such a way, it's like, okay, let's figure it out. There's so many solutions out there if we can just tap into that.
And it's not one solution is
for
everybody, right? And so that's back to the veterinary schools too, right? And there's topics there. To what extent are we in veterinary school opening the door there too, and suggesting once you have your DVM degree, there are a lot of ways you can go. There are a bunch of things you can do.
Yes. Well, that in itself is a whole series, right? And we see a lot of folks doing that, like the My Veterinary podcast. Zoetis has a podcast now with different avenues within the profession, the industry vets. That would be fun, just to build out series of, you know, it's once every chunk of time, bring on someone that's doing something unique within the profession. I've got 5 people in my veterinary class that would come on in a second, and it's mind-blowing the things that people are doing with their degrees.
Well, I think we did that with technicians, and we got a huge, amazing response, because what we did was we called it How to Work, and we brought in people from food animal, from corporate, from practice, and they all just spoke for just a fraction of us, a little bit, to say, and obviously what was fun was the food animal got all the attention, because people were like, So tell us, like,
Yeah.
what do you look like? And so they got really excited. But we tried to showcase the world is your oyster if you go.
Right. But what about keeping that ongoing? Because you could have enough content till the end of time. And again, you could pick veterinary nurse for one segment, veterinarian for another, and kind of alternate it. But there are so many out there. And what you're doing is, one, it's good for those that are listening and learning, but also those people that you're showcasing, how wonderful for them to, they probably don't even realize they're doing something special and cool. They're just doing what they do.
Well, and to be honest, the way I found the food animal technician was because I went out to Janet McConnell, who works for Red Bank. I said, do you know anyone? And she sent me an article. She goes, I just read this article. Here's a technician in it. And I called her.
Love it.
Like, I'm in. So
Love it.
yeah, it worked out really, really. It was
Cody Creelman. You guys know him? Oh my God. Okay, I don't know him, but I am such a groupie for him. Cody Creelman, go on any social media channel and look him up. He's a cowboy vet doing the coolest stuff. He's all into social media. He's a young guy. He also uses drones in his cattle vet stuff.
already.
Yes, he was written up in like Inc. or Forbes or something. And he's just like this dude, and he's a veterinarian. And anyway, he's got to be on there in some form or fashion.
How do you spell his last name?
Cody, I think it's Creelman. Here, let me look it up too while we're chatting. Hopefully I won't hang up on us. But Cody is his first name. Cody Creelman, yes, Creelman. He's so cool. And again, I don't know him personally. I just am his biggest groupie.
That's fun, though. Yeah, that's cool.
Beef cattle veterinarian and practice owner of Veterinary Health Services in Alberta, Canada. Wow.
Canadian
Well,
guy.
it's the Canadians. That's where we got our poultry girl. She was, I mean, our
There you go.
that came in. So
What about the LMU dean?
Oh yeah, Jason Johnson.
Yeah, Jason Johnson.
He's awesome.
Yeah,
He's great.
I agree. He's
what
very
would you talk
innovative.
about?
Oh, actually, you know what? He could talk about a million different things, but here's something interesting. LMU and VetBloom are working on some really cool blockchain for credentialing.
So that's an interesting thing too.
Yeah.
Yes. And
go.
so there we go. So one, that specifically, but blockchain in general, before I left the ABMA, I kept asking the questions like, is anybody talking about this? You know, when is the veterinary profession? And I know just about enough about blockchain to sound like a fool. So I just don't know, but I know the basic concepts. But if we got some folks on here who did understand it and who are already doing some things with it in veterinary medicine, and Ethos and LMU just happen to be two of them, that would be really cool.
Jason Johnson
What
is
is
such an
blockchain
entrepreneur.
credentialing? It's a term I don't know. What is it?
Blockchain, it's taking pockets of data and making it accessible to everyone. And it's kind of the premises of Bitcoin and currency, but you could use it with anything. Yeah, and you can use it with anything. It was actually, there's an episode on 60 Minutes last Sunday on it too. But it's something that outside of vet medicine, they're talking a lot about, and they're just barely starting to talk about it within veterinary medicine.
Right. I think right now in medicine, people are like, explain to me again why
Yeah.
this has relevance to my.
So how cool would that be as a topic? Yeah.
The universal availability of the medical health record,
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes. Well, and you, Bruce, and Carrie that would be in itself. And again, there's so much information, but what if we just talked about the universal pet health record, and that was the topic for one whole episode?
That's something Carrie's very passionate about.
Yes, absolutely.
That's the emotional health record. So Fear Free, our partnership with Fear Free.
Yes.
Carrie did.
Putting that into it.
Carrie
I love
did
it.
for us. So, like in February last year, she did a thing for us on who owns the pet medical record. And
Yeah.
But it's who owns it versus like the quality of it, or like when you talk about the emotional pet record too. I think there's something.
The quality, but though also the totality of it, right? Having it truly being one that whether you're getting your dog groomed, wherever you're going to, the pet retailer, the veterinarian, of really making it one record and all inclusive. That's
expanding on that.
And we have that opportunity in animal health more so than in human health because of HIPAA, right?
Right.
So I may have my medical record at, the MediMERS, and then I've got another medical record at my primary care. Well, in veterinary medicine, because of the way things are structured with pets being property, we have an opportunity to make an integrated medical health.
Right.
plan.
Well,
Very-
and I think blockchain, and I know it'll be a ways before blockchain is the backbone of that, but I actually think it will be.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, our guys have been talking about that, but I'm kind of like you. I'm like, I just know enough to like.
Right. But I know enough to want to know more and to want to get an expert that I could like just sponge away from.
Yeah, exactly.
Someone
So
to break
that's,
it down.
because that's like on that, I would be on that discussion. I'd be like this.
Exactly, but how cool. So
I'd be like, part of you guys are using really big words.
right, it's like to find that.
Yeah.
But see, I think for a lot of our topics, whether they're super complex or not, they're topics that need repeated, and there's just so many different angles for them. That's one of the things that I wanted to talk to you guys about in the morning, but we should, just throw it out there now is, how there's got to be repeated sessions and different angles of the same content, and how do you know when it's enough? And I know you always want to have new content too and new speakers, but
The telehealth, for example, we've had like 5 different angles on telehealth, and it's a huge group of people who show up every time, right? Because people are still trying to get their arms around it and figure out how do you do it and what are the perspectives on it. So some of those topics are just so large, and in 20 minutes you have to just really focus on a small area of it. So
right.
Well, topic every week for a year, and probably have different perspectives and different people showing up.
Well, so that's where channels could come in, right? So if there was a virtual care channel of the Bridge Club, that maybe it was once a week or twice a month, or whatever the right frequency is, that's always virtual care, but different speakers, different topics, and you're just keep diving in. I think as you start to create virtual care groupies, they would always be on there. And Erin Smiley has started a Facebook page that's all about virtual care, and that group would want to be on those calls. So I think there's something there. And virtual care would just be one of the topics of many that could be those channels.
No, I think there's something really there. We've been talking a little bit about that. I think one of the things that I really like too is it goes to the concept, and you can see it better in Brenda behind her, the logo. And the whole purpose of the logo is to start the conversation and then let it carry on. But I do think there's real value in taking some of these conversations live and on the road. I mean, one of the things that Bruce is doing is dinner meetings. I mean, it's an old tactic, but it's one that's incredibly valuable. Like, people are dying for this personal touch point again, right?
Yes.
What I love is that Bruce is really getting back to the real value, right? People want to connect. And so the idea is, if you started here on the Bridge Club, how do you then take it, still make it fresh, still take it to the next level each time? And so I'm really excited. I think the stuff you guys have brought forward, I mean, literally I have 3 pages of notes, and I'm so 3.5. I'm so excited.
Excellent.
So this is why we want to do it. And I know there are many people who didn't get the opportunity to join tonight. So thank you for coming on for us. But, and then I know they're going to watch this, and then we're going to get, like, Brenda and I do get inundated with emails. And we love it. We absolutely love it. So as we look, because I am looking at the time, and we are our limit here. So Brenda, do you have any final parting brilliant?
Thanks, guys, for coming. We appreciate your support and your ideas.
Thank you.
To talk about. Yeah, really appreciate you taking the time to do this, because I'm sure you had other things you could have been doing, but you chose to spend it with us.
I am putting, it's beautiful here in New Jersey, and I'm putting hamburgers on the grill right now.
Oh,
Nice. Nice.
Guys, this is awesome. All right, everybody have one last little toast so that I can edit it appropriately. Guys, thank you for all the great ideas. This is fantastic. Cheers.